Hello everybody, welcome to Fantasy Golf Picks. My name is Sophie Walker, this is Kit Alexander, and it's major week. The US Open is at Torrey Pines, loads of points on offer. But first, we just need to go back a day or two to the Scandinavian Knicks. It was a great event, I was lucky enough to cover it. We got a surprise winner in Caldwell. I've got to say, Dean Thomas, your team is called Useless and you captained Caldwell. What's your thoughts? You reckon there might have been a little bit of...
Well, call me cynical. It's such a bold choice. It might be one of those auto pick when you've forgotten to do your team. It chucks in a load of randomers and selects one of them as captain. If it isn't Dean, let us know, because that is an unbelievable shout. Personally, I was delighted to see Johnny win. Another player who I know really well who came through the Euro Pro Tour, same as Marcus Armitage. I mean, I'm very sentimental apparently in my old age, because there are lots of results and wins that are sort of bringing tears to my eyes at the moment, with Blandy, then Marcus, Johnny this week. We had an unbelievable winner, Connor O'Neill, on the PGA Euro Pro Tour last week, which if you don't know about it, I won't go into it here, but have a little look. I mean, what he's been through in the last year to 18 months. One of the most emotional days I've ever had at a golf event, probably the most emotional, in doing his winner's interview. So yeah, at the moment, what a role of incredible storylines we're having. And it just demonstrates that it doesn't always need to be the all-star players, the superstars, for it to really be entertaining, to actually mean more, because you know that it's truly life-changing for when these kind of guys win tournaments. And you see that in the interviews. But I thought it was a brilliant event. Great to see the women and the men playing. Looked like the course setup was pretty fair for it, as fair as you can get within the obvious limitations of what you're always going to have off of different tees. And the coverage was excellent as well. I thought you did a great job, Sophie. And yeah, the whole team, Richard Kaufman, Spency, Incy, John Morgan out there as well. It was a fun event. It looked really good fun to cover.
Yeah, and actually just a special shout out to Iona, who was doing the interviews, in-course interviews. She managed to, I think the players seemed a little bit more relaxed with them all. I know the first couple of days there was loads of them, and hats off to Alice Hewson walking off the seventh tee and saying, yeah, do you know what, I'll speak to you, Iona, because I imagine a lot of people in that situation would have gone, no, you're okay, like final round, this is a big deal for me. So I thought it added a bit of an insight, and like you say, we got to know so many more players off the back of it, from both the men's and the women's game. Actually, Caldwell, he's a little bit older than me, but I can't believe I didn't know him. You know, when I'm sure I did. Like, I looked at that Walker Cup team that he played in. I know Lloyd Saltman well, Horsey, Willett, like Rory McIlroy, even Llewellyn Matthews, the Welsh lad. Like, you know how they're all, literally all of them are my Facebook friends from when we were kids. And then there's Jonathan Caldwell, and I think, I must have played World Amateurs with him and all sorts. So yeah, probably there was another Northern Irish lad standing out from the crowd that was taking all the limelight and done it for the past 20 years. So I'm glad Jonathan Caldwell has finally stepped out of the shadows and got that win. I did all right. I thought Ryan Fox was going to miss the cut. I was like, what is going on? And then he had a great kind of couple of holes to get himself in. Scrivener was my one, Jason Scrivener. Oh, didn't see that coming. Did you, Kit?
No, I mean, he looked in the most danger of all of the players we kind of picked out and spoke about last week. He was the one in the most danger of looking like missing the cut. Came through and got in with a great finish to his second round, and then obviously kicked on over the weekend and didn't quite have it on the final day. Yeah, my team had a lot of guys well positioned: Horsfield, Luton, Fickart, Calais Samoya going into the weekend, and then it all somewhat fell apart on the Saturday. But yeah, good week. And a good winner.
Right then, US Open, Torrey Pines. It has hosted PGA Tour events on many occasions. You're going to tell us a little bit about the golf course, Kit?
So yeah, we got Torrey Pines. It's going to be a bit over 7,600 yards. Depends where they put the tees. They will change it around, as they often do. The USGA do that as much as any organising body setting up a tournament, to be fair. And as we know with the US Open, the fairways will be narrow, the rough will be up, the greens will be firm and pretty fast. A little word of warning, though, we always see it's like it's a US Open tradition, and it annoys me a little bit. From Sunday to Tuesday, you'll see videos of people dropping the ball into the rough, it disappearing, everyone saying it's going to be the worst rough you've ever seen, and then the USGA go and clip the top off of it on Wednesday night. And it's, you know, it's not nice, but it's not as horribly unplayable as it looks early in the week. So just something to be aware of there. Forget those videos. Yeah, you don't want to be missing the fairways, but it's not going to be the horrific knee-length stuff we'll see over the next couple of days. It has hosted the Farmers Insurance Open, which happens in January, February time on the PGA Tour each year. So an interesting little fact, though, when it was the US Open here in 2008, which of course Tiger Woods won on a broken leg, beating Rocco Mediate, that putt on 18 to force the playoff, you know, one of his most iconic wins, incredible. But apart from Tiger Woods, the rest of the top 10 that year had mediocre to actually pretty terrible form at Torrey Pines in the Farmers Insurance Open leading into that event. So there is a question mark over how much of an indicator Farmers Insurance Open form will be for a major, a US Open at Torrey Pines. The setup will be very different. The time of year is different. And also you do play one round on the easier North course in that Farmers Insurance Open as well. So that can just skew things perhaps a little bit if someone goes and shoots lights out in that round to get themselves into contention. So I'm actually not using Farmers Insurance Open form that much in picking my team. I'm focusing more on US Open form because even though it's a nomadic tournament, the course setup, the USGA generally look for a similar style of course setup wherever they go, with the odd exception depending on the course. Pinehurst sort of springs to mind with that one. So I think US
Tiger
Open
ringing.
form, yeah, that's just Tiger Woods telling me how his recovery is going. So US Open form over Farmers Insurance form. You need length rather than accuracy off the tee. Bryson DeChambeau did it last year. I think you need to hit greens in regulation. You will inevitably miss them, so scrambling, and it's POA annual greens as well. So not all the players are really big fans of that. It gets a bit bumpy, gets a bit bobbly. So you want someone that can handle and has played well on POA greens previously as well.
Yeah, I spoke to David Lynn, who's played Torrey Pines a few times, and he said people were actually saying to him, "Don't go and play Farmers. You don't hit it far enough. Don't play Torrey. It doesn't suit you at all." I said, "I've not played a lot on Poana. Like, what's the big deal of it?" And he said, "There's not a problem in the morning, but as it gets later in the day, the ball just won't stay online." He says if you roll the ball, it doesn't. He's like, you've really got to almost have the pop-in putting action, the firm into the back of the cup rather than the dribblers, which normally, you know, you think US Open, the greens are going to be really fast, you're going to be dying it in, but you're going to see a lot of missed putts on Poana greens, which I think then leads a little bit more into the strokes gained tee to green. US Open in general, 72% of winners have been American, and the last 6 have been American. So there's a dominance in this title. I think you need to look a little bit about who's played okay around Torrey, just because when I've looked at like interviews, there is a bit of a love and a hate relationship with it. So Justin Rose loves the place, absolutely loves it. Brooks has had terrible form around there. Obviously, we can't pick him in our teams, but if you look at, like you said, US Open correlations, greens and regulation, the winners other than Bryson last year, who's just, well, he sets his own records, doesn't he? The last 4 winners have all finished, well, first, fourth, and second in greens and regulation to get the win that week. Now, we saw with Phil Mickelson, didn't we? Like, he can carry no form in hitting fairways and gains from tee to green, and then what to be second in the week of the PGA. So we are saying sometimes there is someone that just steps out of the crowd, but I just think with the majors, we've got to bring it back soon. It's got to come back to normality, hasn't it? The last 2 winners, Hideki, you might have been picking 5 years ago. Mickelson, you might have been picking 5 years ago. but no one was picking him the last couple of starts. So the last 10 winners of the US Open have also been in the top 10 in the top 30 in the world. Everything points to what we've been looking for. We won the Masters, we won looking for winning the PGA Championship. It's not happened so far in 2021. It's been a funny year. It's got to start coming back, surely.
Wow, you say that, but I've gone a little bit off-piste in some of my selections. Now, you know, I'm not pulling people that are like 300, 500 to 1. We're not quite there, but I will list some of the players that are not in my team just to give you an insight who are obviously available. Rory McIlroy,
I knew you would put Rory.
Justin Thomas,
yeah,
Bryson DeChambeau, Victor Hovland, Patrick Reed, Tyrrell Hatton and Tony Finau. All excellent players, some of them major winners, PGA Tour winners, high in the world rankings, but none of those feature in my team because, as you say, it's been a bit of a weird year.
Yeah.
And I've always trusted Rory and it's not quite happened. And I've picked Thomas a few times and it's not quite happened. And, you know, maybe it's a little bit of my personal patience running out. And also the fact that, you know what, I don't know that they really stack up great this week. They're not in brilliant form. They don't have a huge amount of confidence. Okay, Rory got the win at the Wells Fargo, but then he didn't really follow it up at the PGA. And everything says that also for a US Open winner, you need to be confident in your driving when you arrive there. Now, that might not necessarily mean you have to be bombing it and hitting every fairway. You just need to have shown you're driving the ball pretty well, that you can step on that tee and have a bit of confidence. I'm not sure Thomas and Rory will quite have that at the moment. I don't think Bryson DeChambeau is hitting the ball at his best at the moment. He's flattered to deceive this year, frankly, Bryson. You know, he had that really hot start to the year, contended in a few events, and then he's not really done a lot through the sort of meet getting into the spring and the summer. Victor Hovland, I don't know. I'm just not quite convinced about him just yet at this stage, and in a US Open style test where it's really going to test the patience of a player. To be honest, the toughest one to leave out of those for me was Patrick Reed, simply because he's a great scrambler of a golf ball, but he's not hugely straight. He needs to scramble most weeks. And in a US Open, when the scrambling's even tougher, when length becomes a little bit more of an issue, if you are missing the fairways, which he tends to do, I just think he gives himself too much to make up. Yeah, he might get a top 10. Don't think he's going to win. So they're players
we're both going John Rahm, though. Now he's fit and he's allowed to play, though.
So,
right?
yeah.
He's in.
John Rahm.
He was the favourite for me before he tested positive for COVID, even before his round at Memorial. This guy has to get in your team. Not only does he have a record around Torrey Pines, which I know you're not that bothered about, but it's actually what's on top of that.
It doesn't hurt, though.
Yeah, I mean, what's on top of that with John Rahm? He's won the Irish Open a couple of times, so can control his ball flight. We've mentioned he's won the Farmers Insurance. He's first in scoring average on the PGA Tour. He's second in strokes gained. And this is the bit that you really want to know about. It's how well he does in major championships. He's just smashes it at major championships at the moment. Okay, he's not winning, but he's never outside the top 10. He's had like 10 top 10s this year on the PGA Tour. And then in the majors, it's frightening how well this guy plays golf.
The only question mark is what's he been able to do for the last 10 days in isolation. His form was sensational at the Memorial. He was running away with that event. But, you know, you've been in isolation for 10 days, hasn't been able to do everything. Will turn up on the Tuesday, we think, at Torrey Pines. That's the only question mark. But he's still definitely going in my team because I think he was playing well enough that 10-day isolation period won't have chucked him off of his game too much. And like you say, he has a good record at Torrey Pines, and you know he's fits what you want. He hits it a decent distance off the tee. He hits plenty of greens in regulation. He's a good scrambler. I really like John Rahm. I mean, who else is going in your team?
Well, I'm going to counter you. I'm going to put Victor Hovland in because although you say you're not sure about him around the US Open, that they're his best majors so far, T12, T13.
Yeah.
So he's won the US Amateur around Pebble Beach. So Joanna Greens. He's done all right at Torrey. He hits it long, but he's pretty straight for somebody that hits it that long. I mean, on the men's tour, if you can get averaged over 66% of fairways, that seems pretty good. And Victor Hovland is that. And he's fourth in bounce back ability. I think he's got the mentality for major championships. So he's going in because of that. Another guy that is very good in majors and very bad in everything else. No, it's not Brooks Koepka. We can't pick him. It's Justin Rose. Like I've always, you know, with the Rose Ladies series, obviously got a soft spot for Justin Rose. So he said he loves Torrey, and I was like, right, okay, like speaking to people, love-hate relationship. He's won round there. He's won a US Open. But I was looking at this since his first major win. He's recorded 11 top 10s and 29 appearances in majors. 2 of them this year. And this is a guy that you've got to say, on a regular PGA Tour event, you're not backing him at all. Some players value majors, and he does. And I just think maybe that's what he's doing now. He's just trying to peak for these big 4 a year. He'll want to get in the Olympics as well. So that's why Justin Rose is going in for me.
He knows how to get it done in big events, on tough courses, and in big fields. He finds a way, even if he's not playing his best. And I think that's what we've seen in the first 2 majors this year. You wouldn't say Justin Rose.
He's not played well, and he's
not played well, and he's had 2 top 10s. So, yeah, I think that's a great shout. Actually, what you said there about Victor as well. You're convincing me a little bit. Not so much to put him in the team, but you make very good points.
So I've got 3 kind of. They're the ones that I wrote down for my article for what we write for the European Tour. So check that article out. It'll be out today, I'm sure. Who are your 3 which are like in?
Well, do you know what? I've already committed to 6. So I'm gonna just go out there and put my. I've told you all the players I'm not putting in. Now I'm actually gonna put it out there with the 6 I'm going for. So you've mentioned Jon Rahm. He's in for me. Patrick Cantlay was doing absolutely nothing until he won the Memorial. You look at his stats: 13th in greens in regulation, 2nd in scrambling on the PGA Tour this year. He's coming off of a win, and that for me feels like a really nice statistical match for this course. Shane Lowry, 3 top 10s in his last 4 starts. If you know, he's got a great short game. His stats actually on the PGA Tour for short game aren't that brilliant this year. They're decent, but not as good as you'd expect them to be. But we know Shane Lowry has a great short game. His form has been excellent. He's had a couple of top 10s in US Opens before, 2nd at Oakmont to DJ a few years back. He's going in for me. Colin Morikawa, you need to hit greens, and no one hits more of them on the PGA Tour or in world golf than Colin Morikawa.
But what you've done there, which I think is a really good thing to do, is you pick lads from California, and it's a big advantage. West Coast players, so Cantlay is Californian, so's Colin Morikawa. There's a huge difference between growing up on the West Coast, getting used to that type of grass. For those of you, I thought we could pick him, but we can't. Xander Schauffele is, I don't know how he's not second favourite in the bookies. He ticks every single box for playing well around Torrey Pines. He's actually even from San Diego. So just have a quick look out for him. But you grow up on, like Mark Leishman's another one that likes this type of grass. Likes a hard test. He's somebody that's close to getting into my team.
You're absolutely spot on. I did the Cali boys thing was in my thinking because you know they will do well there. They're familiar with it. Louis Oosthuizen playing really nicely. 2nd in the US PGA, top 10s in his last 2 US Opens as well. His form just seems to be nice. And his scrambling's been really good this year. We always associate that beautiful swing with being a wonderful ball striker. And he is a good ball striker, but it's actually his short game, his scrambling and putting, which is shining this year, which I like. You know, he's never going to hit too many dodgy shots with that swing. And if he has a good week on and around the greens, you know he's there or thereabouts. And he has brought it in the biggest events, not only recently, but through his whole career. He's finished runner-up in every major. And of course, has the win to his name as well at the Open. Jon Rahm, who we've already said, and my 6th is Will Zalatoris, making it 3 Americans in my team. You mentioned the success of them. His last 3 majors, tied 6th at the US Open last year, 2nd at the Masters, and tied 8th at the USPGA recently. The guy is a major player. He's a great ball striker, hits it a long way for someone of his stature, hits a lot of greens as well. And he's never let me down when I've picked him so far this year. I think he's got the mental strength for big major occasions as well. So I'm going Cantlay, Lowry, Morikawa, Oosthuizen, Rahm, and Zalatoris.
It's funny, isn't it? Because you said to me, I'm going to like really shock you today. And you haven't, because you've actually picked you might not have picked the world ranking best players in the world, but you picked the best players you picked the form players. That all 6 of those players are notables in the last 4 weeks or last few months of majors. They've really started to, their stroke average for 2021 must be off the chart compared to Justin Thomas is a funny one for me, because if you click on the PGA Tour stats, he's up there on them all, isn't he? But then you can click how he performs in majors, and that's where he does drop significantly. So I'm dropping Rory as well. I can't believe I was saying that, but I'm going California boys. So I'm going Cantlay, Morikawa. I'm going Hovland, Rahm. I am putting Rose in. And then there's just one more, which I think I am going to wedge towards an American. I just don't quite. I knew you'd put Will Zalatoris in. I might have a little look for an American just because of how good they are in this championship. But I think a lot of people will go along more with shying away from the big names this time, and then it'll be interesting to see if they like prove us wrong, like as if to say, you've had 2 goes, we're going to come back now and start dominating. Because I've got to say, after DJ won in November at the Masters, I thought he was just going to dominate forever. And it's the same with Justin Thomas. I'm like, Justin Thomas has only won 1 major. Like it's crazy what's been going on. And it's got to be a time where everything just realigns. But I think because it's been so close since the PGA Championship, I can't see it realigning now. That's my opinion as well.
I would be surprised to see a McIlroy or a Thomas win. Backdoor top 10, or not even a backdoor, just a top 10, sure. But I feel like the US Open is probably the one of all the majors where you need confidence and good play coming into it. You're not going to find your game at a US Open, I don't think. At the Masters, because it's a course people go back to, if you're not playing well, but you're a great player at Augusta, you can have a good week. The USPGA, a bit more similar to a regular PGA Tour setup ordinarily. The Open Championship, links, very different test. Again, if you're a great links player that doesn't necessarily have form in general, you can find something that week. US Open, I just think, it's such a tough test. You have to be confident in your game and all of it going into that week. So that speaks to why I have gone with players who are playing well, who are driving the ball well.
Are we putting Higo in or what?
Oh, I wanted to talk about Garrick because, I mean, we had him on the Filthy Lip Out podcast the week after he won in Gran Canaria. He went and won a couple of weeks ago. You said
how he wants to win again, and I'm like, maybe
he is doing that. Second start on the PGA Tour, first regular PGA Tour event, and he wins, of course, the Palmetto. He looks absolutely sensational. Do you know what? It's almost like I'm not picking him because he has just won, and it's almost like he's won too much, and it's like, well, surely he can't win a major this quickly, but then surely he couldn't win a PGA Tour event this quickly.
Exactly.
And actually, when you look at it, he bombs it off the tee. He's pretty straight.
He's my number 6 is, and it's mental how I'm like, I'm going McIlroy, JT, DeChambeau, and now I'm like, Garrick, Higo.
I would take a punt on Higo. Actually, if I hadn't made such a brilliant case for my 6 that I've put in, possibly, I would go with Higo because he's long. He's got a brilliant short game, great imagination. He holds putts. And I think that whole thing of going, what you would normally do with a player in situation, oh, well, it's a big step up. He's been playing well at a certain level. Can he take it to the next? Well, he's proved he can because he's won 3 times on the European Tour quite quickly and then won in his second PGA Tour start. He proves he can do that. Well, he's won one. Will he win straight away again the next week? Players often have that drop off after winning. Well, okay, he did the first time he won, but then he won twice quickly in Tenerife, and again very quick.
And the greens are the same greens at the Palmetto Championship as they are at the US Open. That's why you saw Brooks DJ teeing it up just to get a feel for it. So it's not like he's going to go, oh, these greens are horrible compared to last week.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think Higo is a great shout. I really do.
Yeah. I think he's my 6. I'm just sort of saying to gamble on him. I'm not gambling on him. Like, he's smashing it. In fact, yes, I think it was on Saturday. We were in the comms box, like we were off air at the time. And we kind of had that, we've lost him, haven't we? That's exactly what we said. European Tour, we've lost him. And then he won. I mean, we didn't think, I'm not sure we saw him win him, but it's just that feeling of, just could just keep hold of him, watching him on the European Tour for a few more years. And it's not even been a few more weeks. He's gone.
No. But I think we are going to see, I mean, I've spoken to a lot of people in the game, and, Josh Ampman was out there doing comms when he won, doing the on-course interviews in Tenerife. And he, the next week, said there was something very special about him, an aura, which you don't hear. There's a certain golfer that we hear an aura mentioned about a lot, and there aren't that many others. That was the word that Josh used. I've been so impressed with what I've seen by him. Everyone that's seen him up close and personal, there's that. Okay, there's something special here. There's something a bit different. He's not just good. He's like potentially multiple major good. And you take that with a little bit of a pinch of salt early on. And yes, he's had a good run on the European Tour. But I think now what he's done on the PGA Tour so quickly at, the age of now just turned 22, there's definitely something very special and huge potential there that he's already starting to fulfill. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how he does in this major, coming off of the win, having got comfortable in America in a major in the PGA where he made the cut. I think there's not many
70-1 this week. 70-1.
Who's 70-1?
He was 70-1 last time I looked, Higo.
I'd be amazed if he's still that long now. But if he is,
now. Who's your outsider? Who's somebody that's going to sneak in?
Well, do you know what? If we were going to talk about outsiders, Higo was going to be someone I mentioned because we hadn't spoken about him before, and obviously he's come from nowhere. I don't know how much of an outsider you can call someone who's coming in off of winning on the PGA Tour the week before. You know what? Someone I'm actually going
to 50-1 at Sky Bet, and Sky Bet odds are a bit weak sometimes. So I bet you could get
that. Still feels like quite nice value to me. The form
he sits. Listen to this. He sits in between Joachim Neiman and Abraham Answer.
I mean, you're taking Higo. I mean, I really like both of those players, Neiman and Answer. I think they'll have great careers, but at this moment in time, you're taking Higo over the pair of them going into the US Open all day long. Yeah. My outsider, and he's not so much an outsider by reputation, but just an outsider that I don't think a lot of people will be thinking about him, and it's Big Tony Finau. Form's been pretty average in general, but you look back over his major form and he just turns out top 10s. Even at more regularity in majors than he actually does in regular PGA Tour events. And he has his fair share of regular PGA Tour events. If you look at the ratio, he just seems to turn up. I've said it before. Do I think he'll win? No. Do I think he'll finish top 10? Probably. And that'll get you that'll get you each way money with a lot of bookies paying out down to sort of 10 or 11 places. And it'll get you decent points in a fantasy game like this, the Race to Dubai as well. So I think Finau is worthy of consideration just purely on the fact that he does seem to turn up and play well in big events, even if not looking like winning them very often.
Yeah, I think you can looking down the odds here. You've got Jason Kokrak, 66-1, Leishman, 60-1. There's some Christian Bezuidenhout at 90. Like he's a decent major player as well. So I just think it's great looking at them at the minute because no one has any idea. Like when DJ won the Masters, he was like 6-1 or something. Now, like John Rahm 9-10-1, and this is a guy that we have no idea if he'll be all right or not. So it's wide open, and I would expect to see. Whereas at the Masters, most of us had a similar team. I think we're going to see variations this week. So what is it? Andy, is it double points or is it more than double points?
So it's not. It's just in line with Race to Dubai points, but there are so many Race to Dubai points. It's worth so much more than most regular events that, you know, the majors are absolutely huge and the WGCs in this game. So you can make really, really big strides. If you have a good week in a major and this week, you can almost have gotten away with being quite poor up to this point or doing not a lot the previous 2 or 3 events since the last major. You know, there's big points available here. So these are the big weeks. And of course,
I'm captaining Colin Morikawa.
Colin Morikawa, that's a nice shout. I am thinking I might captain Will Zalatoris.
Cool.
I'm not totally committing to it, but I think he's the leader at the moment, but I've still got to make my final decision.
Right, well, we've spoken about a fair few players there. I think a lot of me and Kit have got at least 3 or 4 that might get into our 6, which is the same. I'm still not 100% there yet. I do like a last-minute change, but I can promise you all, I won't be bottling it and putting Rory McIlroy in my team Wednesday night. I'm going to stick to my guns this time. Thanks all for watching. Make sure you comment below. Who's your outsider for the US Open?